I finally get it. I've been holding off playing Entropy Zero 2. I tried to play this mod a couple years back, but after hearing a bit of dialogue, I decided it wasn't for me. Although now, since we're truly on the verge of getting Half-Life 3, and because so many people hold this mod in such high regard, I think it's worth giving it a fair shot, especially from a lifelong Half-Life fan like me. Calling this mod a spiritual successor to Episode 2 is a stretch. In fact, I think it gets enough things wrong that comparing it to Valve's work at all is borderline disrespectful to the Half-Life franchise. I know, there's a lot that EZ2 gets right, but today, we're talking about the opposite. Entropy Zero 2 is widely praised as one of the best Half-Life 2 mods ever made, and reading through the reviews, many people even go as far as calling this the Half-Life 3 that we never got, that it reaches Valve level quality. And I do want to preface that the mod developers have never stated this was Half-Life 3 or Episode 3. It's largely the community pushing that narrative. The intent of this video is not to tear down the developers. It's clear that they're big fans of the franchise, and the years of work they put in, especially with Entropy Zero VR, are important. I'm making this video because we should call it what it is: a great mod, rather than infringe on the reputation that precedes it with Half-Life. When you first step into the role of Aiden Walker, you are put right into the anti-hero perspective. You're even hated by the Combine, who are supposed to be on your side. The creators clearly put a lot of work into character interactions in the Combine world, but the tone does not feel like Valve. In every main Half-Life game, the protagonist is silent. The only exception is Half-Life Alyx. And even then, Alyx speaks because her dialogue fills in world context. Alyx's lines react to the environment, not narrate her personality. It's never an inner monologue. Aiden, on the other hand, talks non-stop. Almost everything he says is commentary. It doesn't advance the story, deepen the world, or even build mystery. It cuts into the kind of immersion that Half-Life is known for. We're meant to believe that Aiden is hated because of his morality and choices.
People took everything from me because of the way I am. My way of life, my family, my morality. People took everything.
But the writing doesn't support this. His obsession with pleasing the Combine to learn what happened to his daughter makes him look more naive than complex. His lines about people not seeing his humanity feel awkward and forced.
I only had one thing to give up for this job. My humanity. Some would say I never had it anyway.
Valve never writes like that. They would show it, not have the protagonist say it out loud. Valve games drop you into the world and trust you to immerse yourself. They never drown the experience in monologue. Even Gearbox in the expansions understood this. This is the same reason Half-Life 3 will still have a silent protagonist. The tone of this mod sits closer to a Half-Life inspired fan story rather than something that fits within Valve's style. And I think that's exactly what they intended to do. There are things that line up with the established Half-Life and Portal universe, but at the same time, I'd argue there's even more that doesn't. Think of it this way: if you're an advanced, world-consuming race that enslaves every creature you come across, you must be intelligent. The Combine conquered Earth in 7 hours. Aiden was a prisoner, yet the Combine still chose to allow him into the MetroCop ranks? Sure, you could argue, MetroCops are humans who choose to go against humans, but the Combine lacks sentimentality. They were indiscriminate when wiping out 90% of Earth, using the rest for labor, experimentation, or to add to their ranks. It's unlikely that we would have had prisoners left, and even less likely that someone like Aiden would have survived. Also, the way Aiden talks with the advisors the same way that Breen does doesn't make sense. They can clearly freeze or hurt him even when he's not physically present. And as we know, advisors are telepathic creatures. They should communicate through visions or mental intrusion, not just casual dialogue. I know, when Breen speaks with them, he's clearly talking out loud, but I think it's safe to assume a modified Overwatch Elite would communicate in a different way. The Aperture Science segments are really cool, but how did they know what Zen is? Why does Aiden know what Zen is? Why are there crates from Black Mesa scattered around? If this game follows opposing forces lore, Black Mesa was nuked by the G-Man. Adrian disarms the bomb, but G-Man reactivates it. And if opposing force is canon here, then where are the shock troopers, the Voltigors, and even the sprites? Valve would absolutely have capitalized on that kind of opportunity. It would also make these Zen sections feel more like opposing force. If the Borealis was supposed to be this mythical thing that disappeared, how did an entire facility get built around it? Some of the signs in the Arbite facility make no sense either. As you walk around, you can find rebels eating pumpkins, which are clearly a warm weather crop. So that doesn't make any sense. And speaking of rebels, why are there so many of them? There's no way that Judith brought an entire army of rebels and Vortigaunts. It feels like they've been here forever too, having time to collect longfall boots, create long jump modules, study Zen grenades, and set up a whole tech ecosystem. In episode 2, when we get to the underground area where we need to heal Alex, we can feel the barren state, the lack of supplies and urgency, something that this mod severely lacks. This mod also shoots itself in the foot with excessive narration. Valve always prioritizes quality over quantity, but the amount of radio chatter breaks immersion.
Some of them were even scientists from Black Mesa. They knew I couldn't tell them much about the project in case the Combine was listening, but they still wouldn't believe me.
Individually, these are small things, but together, they form a world that feels like more of a remix rather than the careful internal logic that Valve would have built around. If you've made it this far, please consider subscribing. And leave a comment if you disagree with any of the points I've made thus far. But these next points are going to be a lot harder to argue against. With every single Half-Life game, Valve has innovated in some way. Half-Life 1 brought a new storytelling approach and advanced mechanics for its time. Half-Life 2 revolutionized physics in gaming. Half-Life Alyx revitalized the VR scene with one of the best VR games ever made. While EZ2 has impressive moments, it doesn't innovate. It borrows, especially from Black Mesa and Half-Life Alyx. Again, this does not mean it's a bad mod, but by Valve standards, it doesn't hold up. The Gnome sequence was refreshing and scary, but it clearly mimicked the Jeff chapter from Alyx, just with a faster pace. The HEV suit zombies were also cool, but very out of place. In Black Mesa, they really did make sense. It was right after the Resonance Cascade. In EZ2, 20 years later, it would have made a lot more sense to see one heavily mutated HEV zombie, even as a boss fight. The dialogue is repetitive. Clone Cop keeps repeating the same lines about how the Combine are bad. Wilson keeps reminding you that Zen grenades give you supplies sometimes. The game holds your hand a little bit too much. The car section also feels unnecessary. Zombie gaunts are a cool concept, but not well thought out. In Alyx, Gary houses a ton of headcrabs, and is able to cook and handle them despite being cut off from the Vortessence. That should tell you something about Vortigaunt physiology. If zombie gaunts really do exist, the mod should have shown Vorts being experimented on, or given a more plausible way for them to exist. Even so, that wouldn't make sense at an Aperture facility. Even the AR2 upgrade is given in a flat, anticlimactic way, instead of feeling like a meaningful step forward. The innovations in this game feel more like creative Half-Life themed ideas, rather than genuine evolution. Just to clarify, none of my critique means that this mod is bad. It's overwhelmingly good, in fact, and I understand why it has such a positive reaction. This mod was developed by fans for free with pure passion driving it. It's creative, polished, and ambitious, but Half-Life is more than that. It's a design philosophy built on restraint, mystery, and innovation. A world that never explains more than it needs to. A world where you are the protagonist, and the environment tells the story. Entropy Zero 2 does not follow these rules. It does its own thing, and that's okay. That's what a mod should be. But it is not a spiritual successor to Episode 2. It's not Opposing Force 2. It's not Valve. This is Entropy Zero 2, a Half-Life adjacent experience, crafted like a love letter. And that distinction matters.